Good morning. Welcome to Up to the Minute. I'm Todd Duplantis. It is Monday, September the 11th. Good to have you with us on the show. It's hard to say September 11th without, thinking what happened 22 years ago today. It's hard to believe it's been 22 years since the attack on this nation. My co-host this morning, Dr. Nicholas Cox, from the history department. Nick, I know today, a very somber day, but a day that none of us will ever forget.
That's right, Todd. That's right. And I know that Chancellor Ford Fisher sent out a statement this morning on asking everyone to think and reflect today about the events on 9/11/2001.
I remember I was working in the news industry back in those days, so I didn't get to cover it there, but from the local angle, and that's just something that's always going to be ingrained in me. I imagine as a history buff yourself, it's something you'll always be teaching in classes and referencing to, because it's hard to believe we have generations of kids that weren't around back then or were too young to remember.
Yeah, that's right, Todd. I mean, I remember the day vividly, of course. I'll confess I was an undergraduate at the time, and I remember when the first plane hit and everyone gathered to watch at the TV screens in the Commons, and then after the second plane hit, classes were canceled and everybody left campus. And my sons are 23 and 17, and they've grown up in a world after that. So we remember the way things were before and after, and that's definitely one of those hinge events that changes history for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, we're going to move on to some other topics. One thing, I guess it's on the bright side. I don't know if you had a chance to get outside this morning, but the weather was quite pleasant. And yesterday, they may have said it got up to 95 in some parts of town, but my thermostat was outside, thermometer said it was 90 degrees. So that's a win-win for those of us who's been living in the sweltering heat wave for months.
Yeah, I get up early and I walked outside this morning. It was 72. I looked on the phone and I saw we'll have temperatures in the 60s next week. That's hard to believe, but okay.
I know.
It's not 110 anymore.
Yeah, if we could just get past this heat wave, I've had enough of it. All right. We want to thank everyone who's watching us on this Monday morning on Facebook Live and YouTube. We're here just about 10 a.m. every day. HCC is in session Mondays through Fridays. But Nick, if they don't catch us live, they can also always watch us in social media and catch the replay on HCCTV.
Yeah, that's right. We are live on Houston Community College's Facebook page and on YouTube, but we're also on X, formerly known as Twitter, on LinkedIn and HCCTV at noon, 5 and 10 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Okay, Nick, I know you're a music guy, and so you'll be interested in this next guest we're going to bring on the show, because when you think retro, I think 80s, but this is real retro, like going way back from the songs of yesteryear, classics from an era gone by. We've got Brianna Barnhart from the Manhattan Dolls joining us now. Good morning, Brianna.
Good morning. Hello.
Good to have you with us. We're looking forward to hearing all about your music and your thoughts on retro. Because like I said, I think 80s when I think retro, but you're talking way more retro, right?
A little farther back, yeah.
Yeah, maybe about 30 or 40 years before that.
Correct. Yeah,
Something
1920s,
like so.
1930s.
There you go. All right, Brianna, stick around. I'll be with you in about 10 minutes. It is Mental Health Monday, and we're discussing September, which is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. Tiffany Bittner is the Director of Suicide Cares Initiatives with the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD, and she's also our Mental Health Monday guest. Welcome to the show, Tiffany. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
What we mentioned this month is Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. Let's just talk basic statistics about suicide. Maybe you can give us some of those, because I was reading through a few of them, and they're pretty sombering when you think about it.
They are. Oftentimes people wonder, is this really as a big a problem as people think it is? And it is. That goes to show when we tell people that, hey, it is okay not to be okay, that you're not alone in these feelings and things like that is true. In 2021, the state of Texas had almost 4,200 people die from suicide. In Harris County alone, there were 565 deaths from suicide in 2021, with an additional almost 3,000 emergency visits for suicide attempt. Those numbers are staggering, and it's sad to see that people are having to, resorting to this method when there is help out there. Almost 4 million people in the state of Texas have some form of a mental illness. So it is a real problem that we face.
I would imagine, I've seen this in friends and family, but if someone mentions, oh, I'm having suicidal thoughts, and that continues over and over again, the family may step back and say, well, wait a second here, what's going on? But is it encouraged when someone is talking about that? Should you tell them right then and there, no matter if it's their first time or their fifth time, you need to get help on this? How do you approach that? And if you're the person feeling that way, who do you go to that's trusted?
Absolutely. So, we always like to say that we should always take anyone's words and actions very seriously. It is certainly a conversation that can have a very, very negative and impactful outcome. So we always want to make sure that we listen to people very non-judgmentally, that we hear the words that they say, and that we have those conversations and we educate ourselves on how to have those conversations. And if you do have a loved one or a colleague that is having those conversations with you, or you begin to have those thoughts yourself, we always here at the Harris Center, we always advocate, reach out to someone who's a trusted, family member or friend. Make sure that if you have friends that speak about those feelings, that they know that they can trust you, that you will be there for them. Here at the Harris Center, we have a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week crisis line. That number is 713-970-7000. Also 988, that is your national suicide and crisis hotline. That number, if you call that number, we actually answer that number here at the Harris Center. We're one of the few locations that actually answer those phone calls for the state of Texas. So there are certainly resources out there to help someone talk through those feelings. There are certainly different levels of risk when someone is maybe just kind of in the thought process stage versus someone who may have been having those thoughts for a while and is ready to act on them. But whatever stage of that anyone is in, we always encourage that we help them to get the help that they need, or we help ourselves and ask you to, we have to take ourselves to that nearest emergency room or make that phone call.
One thing I was reading through your notes, preparing for this, and I would think that someone who may be having suicidal thoughts would say, you know what, I need some help, but I don't want to go into a hospital. I don't want to be locked up. You guys actually approach that from the beginning when they come see you, I imagine, at the Harris Center, because you're trying to get them the help they need, but not say we're going to take you away in a straitjacket, just to put it in a weird sense, right?
Absolutely. So, that is something that's a very common misconception, and that leads a lot of people to not speak up about those feelings. And the reality is, as mental health professionals, we want to keep you out of the hospital. We don't want people to go to the hospital. We understand the negative impact it can have not only on yourself, but your family, jobs. When we take people out of their comfort place, right, then that creates a whole nother list of concerns and things that cause that anxiety and that depression. So we do a lot of things. We like to do our first touch point screening, where we're going to ask questions about that. And that's okay. We ask everyone those questions. Our goal is to ask everyone and get the sense of, are you having these feelings? We're going to assess people and see, what level of risk are you? When I spoke earlier about, some people are just kind of in that thought stage of, I've kind of had these thoughts that come and go. And then some people are really more, further along the line and have formulated plans. And we want to know that so we can help you through that. But we have an array of things that we can help to keep you out of the hospital if you decide that you are ready to get treatment and get help for those thoughts.
And I would imagine that would include an array of things. If the person may need counseling, you can direct them to that way. Would there be group therapy that they can go through? I mean, what are some of the alternate treatment that people can get for having these issues without having to go into a residential treatment center?
Yeah, so there are so many different things. One of the first things that we can do, and one of the kind of the easiest things, but one of the more meaningful things, is creating a safety plan with somebody. And a safety plan is really a document that we're going to go through with you, and we're going to talk about things that might make you feel those feelings of thoughts of suicide, but also the things that make you feel better. What are the things that help you cope with those feelings? Who do you have and their phone numbers that you can reach out to in the moment when you're feeling that way? What local resources do you have, whether it's the Harris Center crisis line, whether it's the 988 number, the nearest emergency rooms, but we want you to have that and be able to have that in front of you in those moments where maybe your thought processes aren't as clear as they usually are. Other things that we can do, there's different types of therapies that really hone in on the reason for those suicidal thoughts. So, there's cognitive behavioral therapy. There's DBT, which is another type of therapy. And those really focus on getting people to the point where they are addressing the root cause of those thoughts. There's also there's higher levels of care, right? So there's different levels of care in mental health, just like there are in the medical world. And so you don't necessarily have to go to a hospital, but you can maybe get more intensive care where maybe you see a counselor or you go to group therapy sessions or individual therapy sessions a couple of times a week versus just one time a month or one time every other week. So we have a lot of tools in our toolkit to be able to keep you safe in your own home. There are those times that you do need to go into the hospital and you do need to have someone that can be there with you 24 hours a day to make sure that you are safe. And that's okay too. There are some amazing facilities around the Houston area that can facilitate that, and you can get the help you need getting started there. But that is not always the answer.
Tiffany, I know you mentioned a number of phone numbers when you were talking earlier. We're going to have all those numbers in our social media post after the show. But I guess the main thing, whether you are a family member, a colleague, or a friend, and if someone's talking to you about these thoughts, to seek out or help them get help. Is that correct?
Absolutely. We always, like I said, the biggest message that we have is that people, you're not alone, right? And that it's okay to speak up about your mental health and your mental well-being. And it is okay to give to somebody that you trust. If you don't feel like you have someone you can trust, those numbers there, you can call those numbers and get connected to a mental health professional. There's even a text line now. And so there's so many ways, but we have to make sure that people understand that it is okay to reach out and that the help is there, the resources are there. You just have we have to get people to them.
Tiffany Bittner is the Director of Suicide Care Initiatives of the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD. We appreciate you being our Mental Health Monday guest. Thanks for being here, Tiffany.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. We're going to turn things over now. And Nick, you've got a music guest who's going to take us way back with some retro music.
That's right, Todd. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Brianna Barnhart of the Manhattan Dolls, our Music Monday guest.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Where are you visiting from? Are you zooming in from New York?
Yes, I live in New York City.
All right, fantastic. So here in Houston, at the Hobby Airport on the very west side is an old 1940 air terminal that's now a museum. It is a beautiful Art Deco building from the Great Depression era, and it is used for things like weddings and celebrations. And I understand you guys will be having a concert there. This is absolutely a perfect venue for you guys. Tell us a little bit about what the Manhattan Dolls do.
So we are an internationally touring vintage female swing style trio. So always perform in trios, pretty reminiscent of the Andrews Sisters.
Now, when you say reminiscent of the Andrews Sisters, I think you might have to tell people who they were and what that means.
I would say their most recognizable tune would be Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Some lovely sisters, trio style singing, big band. I might have been the predecessor for big band, actually, but very fun, very accessible.
All right. Well, how long have the Manhattan Dolls been around, and where did you guys get your start?
So the name actually comes, our founder was living in Manhattan at the time. She was a former USO girl, but the USO started to take a turn towards more contemporary music, and she really wanted to keep that 1930s, 40s style alive. So she created her own group, moved to Tucson, Arizona, where we are currently based. And I think in October, it'll be year 14.
Oh, that's remarkable. For people out there that don't know the USO, this is the organization that brings entertainment to troops deployed abroad. And And I suspect, like your founder, I think a lot of people see World War II as the kind of highlight of the USO as a cultural event or a cultural institution. But I confess, when I saw that your founder was a former USO member, or USO girl, as they might have been called, I was surprised that they still had that kind of entertainment. I think about famous visits with Marilyn Monroe or Bob Hope, or maybe even during the Iraq War, someone like Steve Carell. But do you guys and your founder in the USO, was she performing internationally around the world to troops outside the USA?
I do believe so, yes.
Yeah. Now, as a group now, the Manhattan Dolls, I understand you guys have also played and performed in England and France. Anywhere else?
Yeah, most recently, about a month and a half ago, we did an air show in Alberta, Canada. Probably the most pertinent to our upcoming performance. There is a Battle of the Bulge festival in Belgium, so we did that in December.
Yeah, I would imagine a sort of 100th anniversary event a few years past would have brought that back into the public demand for interest in those battles. So what are the different eras of music that you perform? Because you mentioned, for example, precursors to big band, World War II. I know the USO and patriotic service. This goes all the way up, from the Vietnam War to the Iraq War. But what are the eras of time that you guys try to recreate?
I would say our most popular is the 1930s, 40s show, but we also have 50s, 60s. We do have a 1920s, actually World War I show, which is super fun. A lot of songs most people don't necessarily know. And unfortunately, as more World War II veterans are passing away, we're trying to expand into a Vietnam era show so we can keep entertaining veterans.
Right. So the veterans in your audience are often some of the most enthusiastic attendees to Manhattan Doll Show.
Oh my gosh, the interactions are just so delightful every time. Very joyful to be performing and to be receiving their joy.
So I noticed that often your shows are marketed as a trio of women performing music together, but I also see portraits of the group that include far more than three. How does that work?
So there are, oh gosh, I can't remember, at least 9 of us.
Mhm.
So 3, we always perform in a trio, soprano 1, soprano 2, alto, but it's kind of fun for availability. We get to mix and match. You never know which girls you're going to get. And it's just a very fun, yes, we're always performing in a trio, but we get to mix and match based on availability, based on requests. Maybe someone has been at a gig in the past and they requested them again.
No, that sounds great. It gives you guys a little bit of flexibility. You can divide and conquer different places at the same time, or you can, as you described, mix up the trio so that people see different performers. Even if they've seen Manhattan Dolls, they see a fresh performance. Do you guys have a sort of do you guys specialize in an era so that some of you are more interested in the 30s and 40s and some of you are more interested in the 60s and 70s, or does everybody sort of do all of it?
Everybody does everything. That's kind of how the training goes. You're sort of assigned, you're going to start out as a 50s, 60s doll or a 30s, 40s, and then the longer you stick with the group, everybody learns everything.
So if anybody out there is watching this show and a young woman wanted to potentially audition or perform with you guys, how would she make that happen? How would she get an audition?
I think you can reach out. We have a website, themanhattandolls.com. We are reachable on Instagram and Facebook as well at The Manhattan Dolls.
Now, this show here in Houston, September 30th, I believe, is that your only show in Houston this month?
As far as I know, yes.
Put you on the spot there. Well, have you performed in Houston in the recent past with the Manhattan Dolls or in another venue?
Personally, I have not, but I'm trying to remember, pre or post pandemic, the Dolls did a Texas tour where they covered kind of the whole state. And I know they touched a few places in Houston. I believe we've been at this museum before.
Okay, well, if it's your first visit to Houston, welcome. I hope you have a really nice time there. When people come to the Air Terminal Museum and see a performance, will they be able to meet and greet the Manhattan Dolls, take pictures for their Instagram feeds, anything like that?
Absolutely. If you take photos, tag us at the Manhattan Dolls. We love to take photos, selfies. We love to meet people and engage.
Now, how long will you guys be on this tour for? How long will you be on the road?
This one's pretty quick. We are just going to Houston for the weekend, back home, and then the next weekend is on to a different state.
Okay, all right. Well, if people want more information, you mentioned your website is at themanhattandolls.com. And
Yes.
can they find your music on Apple Music, Spotify, or any other streaming services? Or are you selling vinyl records only?
I think we're on Spotify and for sure on YouTube. We have a lot of original music videos, if that's your flavor. And we do sell CDs on our website as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you, Brianna. I hope you have a great audience at the show when you're here in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you both. And we've got a few announcements to get through before we wrap up today's show. First up, a National Day of Remembrance. This is happening at our Southeast campus of the Southeast College. Student Life is currently honoring the victims, survivors, and those who rose up in service during the 9/11 attacks. The event begins with a moment of silence and presidential briefing, and then there will be time to catch the film highlighting first-person accounts of the attacks and their aftermath. That's happening today, September 11th, of course, at the Southeast Student Center, room 137. We will have some information in our post after the show, but get on out there for a day of remembrance. And we've also got financial health coaching, Nick.
That's right. Every second Tuesday, HCC's financial coaches offer a workshop to learn how to prepare for student loan repayment, tax refunds, financial freedom, and more. Workshops are every month starting in September. And the first one, I believe, is September 12th. Check our post after the show for more information.
Okay, managing stress. We all need to know a little bit about that. Managing stress and mental health. That's happening. It's a counseling and ability services workshop. It is happening on WebEx and at our Missouri City campus from 10 to 11 a.m. Wednesday, September the 13th. So this coming Wednesday. Check our post for more information after the show. And subs and sandwiches are back. I don't think they're serving soup, but subs and sandwiches, very popular series, is back.
Yeah, this is with J.E. Dunn, and HCC and MBDA are continuing their popular subs and sandwiches. And this time it'll be 11:30 to 12:30 on Wednesday, September 20th. This is a virtual meeting on WebEx. Check the post after the show for registration.
Okay, faculty exhibition. They're literally happening across the district. This one we're going to highlight is at HCC's Northline Gallery. It's a collection of paintings, drawings, and mixed media digital artworks by faculty member Elizabeth Depew. This is the only one. This is only one of the faculty exhibitions that's happening, and it's at the Northline Gallery through November the 3rd. Check our post after the show. We'll have some information on there. And if you have not registered for classes, you got literally a week left until second start begins, Nick.
Yeah, that's right. It's not too late. I would love to see some more of these seats get taken. Fill them up, please. Second start begins on the 18th, and you can register for those classes now. Depending on the program, we also have other sessions later in the term. Second 8-week session starts in October. Some programs have quarter system classes that start November. But check the platform and see what classes are available, because it's not too late. We have classes online and on campus. We have hybrids, we have labs, we have hybrid labs. Every modality you want, we've got classes available.
Okay, just make sure you get to hccs.edu/apply. Do it now. Don't wait. You got to get this taken care of. Okay, tomorrow on the show, it's Tasty Tuesday, and it's Hispanic Heritage Month. So you know what that means. We'll have a very special guest here. And later this week, we'll welcome the UN and Family Endowed Chair winners with an English professor who won for a project to create a student journal of art and writing. That's on the show later this week as well. Nick, get out, enjoy this cold front that's come through. Might only get up to 93 today.
That's right. You too, Todd. Enjoy the afternoon.
All right. We'll see you next Monday, and we'll see all of you tomorrow morning live, 10 a.m. for Up to the Minute.